So we got New England at 1, Pittsburgh 2, Jacksonville locked in at 3, Kansas City locked in at 4. The real iffy part is the wild card portion here. Baltimore, Tennessee holding those spots as we stand. And then you have the Chargers and the Bills on the outside looking in. They have scenarios as well. But let's start with the New England Patriots here, Tom. All they have to do is win. They get the #1 overall seed.
And it's very funny to see the way the Patriots and Steelers are approaching this game. Patriots saying, hey, let's just win and take care of business and get that #1 seed. Pittsburgh's like, whatever. You know, it's the Browns. Let's not really try this week. So they're going to sit Big Ben and some others. So I think with the Patriots, though, they are in fantastic shape overall to get the #1 seed and be the favorite entering the Super Bowl.
You're absolutely right. Let's take a look at all of these scenarios here for the Patriots. We mentioned one of them. They have to win. Or if the Steelers lose with Landry Jones at quarterback against the Cleveland Browns.
It could happen.
It really could, honestly. And then the other scenario, Patriots tie to the Jets, and the Steelers tie as well to the Cleveland Browns. So the Patriots sitting pretty to get that #1 overall seed. Let's transition into Pittsburgh now. Pretty simple for them. If they want to get home field advantage, they got to win, and the Patriots have to lose or tie to the Jets. Tom, this isn't surprising that the Steelers are behind the 8 ball in a sense to get that #1 overall seed because they lost to New England
Only Jesse James had caught the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
They still would have sat their starters in their game against the Browns. Would have not mattered, but they would have had the #1 seed.
Steelers 12-3 on the campaign.
What could have been?
Could have been a little better than that if they were to beat the New England Patriots. Okay, so Patriots and Steelers have clinching scenarios. We're going to skip Jacksonville and Kansas City because they're already locked in as division winners. So let's go to Baltimore now. 9-6 on the year. They win or tie against the Cincinnati Bengals. They get that 5 seed in the AFC. They can also get in if they lose. Couple scenarios here. If the Titans lose or tie to the Jaguars this week, and it appears as though the Jaguars are going to go all out in this game, or the Bills lose or tie to the Miami Dolphins, all very possible. The Ravens have a few reasons to get in here.
Look, this should be pretty simple for Baltimore. They win their game and they get the top seed in the wild card, and then they go on the road and face the Chiefs. That's what we think is going to happen.
Yes.
I'll be surprised if it doesn't happen,
Correct.
frankly. And frankly, I think Baltimore not making the playoffs, I think would be one of the biggest surprises this year of the NFL, just because of where they currently sit, their odds, which does factor in like how likely they are to win a game. They're at 97% likelihood of making the playoffs. They should be in. They're about as close to clinching as you can be at this point in the year without actually being clinched.
Baltimore Ravens 9-1 against non-playoff teams. Tom, 0-5 against current playoff teams. So big test for the Ravens if they do get into the postseason. They're going to have to prove themselves. Let's go to Tennessee now. They've lost their last 3. Amazingly, still control their playoff destiny. That's all you can ask for in Week 17. If they beat the Jaguars, they get into the postseason. A couple other options. If they tie, Bills lose or tie, Chargers lose or tie, or if the Bills lose to Miami and the Chargers lose to Oakland this week, the Titans could get in at 8-8. That is just so fitting for the AFC this year.
Yes, it is. I think what concerns me the most about the Titans is that they have an easy path to actually getting in. Oh, just win their game, right? Are they going to beat Jacksonville, though? Like, that's where I think things get a little dicey. And the Titans, in general, have just looked bad down the stretch. They look like a completely different team.
Yeah.
Or maybe what we thought they were. That early in the year with some big wins kind of muddled out by some bad losses and being what I think was like the worst 8-5 team of the time. So I don't know if this is a good Titans team, and I think maybe the best thing for Tennessee long-term is to lose the game, fire Mike Mularkey, get a new head coach, which we'll discuss here later on in the show.
All right, so the Titans have an opportunity to get into the postseason. So do the Bills. They need to win, and the Ravens have to lose against the Cincinnati Bengals for Buffalo to get into the postseason for the first time in this millennium. Also, some other options here. Bills win, Chargers lose or tie, Titans lose or tie, or the Bills tie, Chargers lose, Titans lose. You give the Bills any shot here?
Yes, but I think that in particular, because the Ravens are not going to lose that game. Let's toss out tie as an actual scenario here.
Okay.
I think there's a good chance that the Titans lose, but San Diego against Oakland, we'll talk more about the Chargers here as well. Oh, sorry, LA. LA Chargers. Haven't done that in a long time. Made that mistake just now. So the LA Chargers against the Oakland Raiders, soon to be the Las Vegas Raiders. What concerns me about that is the Bills lose the head-to-head matchup. If both those teams are sitting there with 9 wins, the Bills lose out because they made the decision to start Nathan Peterman for no good reason.
Gee, I think Bills fans will have some reason to be angry if that goes down. All right, so there's the playoff picture. Those are the scenarios we are looking at as we head into Week 17. That's the AFC. Let's go to the NFC now. Philadelphia has locked in the #1 overall seed. The NFC playoffs will go through Lincoln Financial Field. Now, the question mark is the 2 seed. Minnesota, they're in a good spot to get it. Here's what needs to happen. A few options here. Vikings win or tie this week.
That one's easy.
That one's very easy. That's against the Chicago Bears. Another scenario, Panthers lose or tie to Atlanta, also relatively possible.
Yeah, that's possible.
And then the Saints just beat Tampa Bay.
Yeah, so it's super confusing as to why that's the case, but Minnesota, with the head-to-head loss in this case to the Panthers, they would be behind them in the seeding. That's how Carolina actually gets the #2 seed. But if the Saints win the division, it doesn't matter because the Panthers aren't there. So Minnesota would end up getting the 2 seed if the Saints win the NFC South.
You got the Rams.
It's kind of weird.
It is a weird situation, and it's kind of funny how Carolina can actually get the 2 seed. We'll talk about that in a few moments here. Rams are there at 3-11-4, and they have clinched the NFC West, so congrats to them. They're going to have a home playoff game. The Saints have not clinched their respective division yet. The NFC South is still up for grabs. The Saints have to take care of business against the Bucs to clinch it, or if the Panthers lose to Atlanta, also a situation where if the Saints tie and the Panthers tie, the Saints clinch.
I'm just really glad that we included all the ties scenarios, which are never going to happen, but they're fun to
figured
have
you
for
appreciate that.
for the one time that it does. It's going to be awesome.
So the Saints sit there at 11-4, and it's sitting pretty to clinch the NFC South. The Panthers still have an opportunity as well. They have to win. The Saints have to lose or tie against Tampa Bay. Also a situation where they tie the Panthers and the Saints lose to Tampa Bay, they would get the NFC South. All right, here's the fun scenario here. This is how the Carolina Panthers get a first-round bye.
Yes, this one's awesome.
Ready, Tom?
Yeah.
The Panthers win. The Saints lose or tie to Tampa Bay. Minnesota somehow loses to Chicago. And the Rams lose or tie against the San Francisco 49ers.
So you're saying there's a chance.
I am saying exactly that. And hey, who
Well,
knows?
the Rams aren't trying this week.
Correct.
The Saints play the Bucs, though, and the Vikings play the Bears, so
Probably only one out
weirder
of those
stuff
3.
has happened, all right?
Yeah.
How crazy would that be? The Vikings jump from 5
Oh,
to
that
2
would
in
be
the last week.
Unbelievable. Well, okay, so we have the Panthers there at number 5. They have clinched a playoff spot. The Falcons have not. Here's what they need to do. Win this week against Carolina, Tom.
Okay.
Clinching scenario right there, probably the most simple. The other one here, Seattle somehow loses to Arizona and Drew Stanton.
I mean, it's not like Seattle's looked great lately.
True.
It could happen. They probably should have lost last week to the Cowboys, but the Cowboys just decided to lose more.
To look worse.
Yeah.
This is a great way to put it. Great way.
Neither team won. The Cowboys just lost more.
Okay, so another scenario, Falcons tie, Seahawks both tie. The Falcons would be in there.
I like that one.
I'm sure you do. All right, let's go to Seattle here. They're on the outside looking in. They do not control their own playoff destiny. Seattle has to win, and then Atlanta has to lose to Carolina. This could actually happen.
Yeah, I actually don't mind this. The key for Seattle, and it's kind of funny how everything has gone Seattle's way to make the playoffs since they lost that bad game to the Rams. Now all they need is the Panthers to beat the Falcons. Carolina's going to try in this game. It is a home game for Atlanta, but there's a real chance Seattle gets that win. They beat the Cardinals team at home, and the Falcons end up losing. That would be a fantastic scenario for Seattle.
All right, so that's where we stand in the NFC here. We want to bring in a weigh-in for the folks at home. Who you got in Super Bowl 52? Hit us with your predictions in the comments section. One thing I want to quickly touch upon, Tom, there's actually a situation where we could see the Saints jump ahead of the Rams because the Rams aren't trying this week. They could go to 11-5, the Saints to 12-4. That could change things a bit.
There's some buzz out there that maybe the Rams just don't want to play the Vikings. They would rather potentially, if the seeding breaks out the way we think it will, and there are no crazy upsets, that the Rams would rather play Philadelphia without Carson Wentz than the Vikings in that defense.
Okay, there you go, folks. Throw in those comments, and we will be tracking them here on NFL Daily. Cam Rogers alongside Tom Downey taking a look at the playoff picture across the NFL. Now, let's stick with the playoff theme here, Tom. We're going to go to Super Bowl odds according to oddsshark.com. And we're going to start off with number 15. These are all the teams that are mathematically in the playoff hunt / they've already clinched. We'll start with the Titans, 125-1. Like I said at the top of the show, they've lost their last 3 games.
Not surprised they have low odds. A, they haven't clinched yet. B, they haven't looked good at all as of late.
So they're there at number 15. Buffalo at number 14. I think it's just more celebratory if they get into the postseason, Tom, rather than actually win the Super Bowl.
Kind of a noticeable difference here for these bottom two teams, and then the odds kind of jump back up. And I think you can tell that because Tennessee and Buffalo are ranked as the lowest two in the hunt AFC teams, makes me think Vegas believes those two teams will not make it to the postseason at all.
Yeah, and perhaps more faith in this team here, the Los Angeles Chargers, 66-1 odds. Phillip Rivers, a big reason why. A couple of great corners on the outside. Casey Hayward, Trevor Williams, and King, and the slot corner is pretty good as well. A lot of faith, I guess, from Vegas, even for a team that hasn't clinched yet.
Yeah, I am not putting my money on them. I know the odds are good right now because they'll go up if and when they clinch a playoff spot, but I don't think the Chargers can get by most of the AFC teams in the postseason right now.
All right, so they're at 13 in terms of Super Bowl odds. Let's go to number 12 here. The Baltimore Ravens. Joe Flacco has the most road playoff wins in NFL history. January, Joe, what can you say?
Well, he's got to do it again this year because the Ravens are going to be on the road for,
that's correct,
you would think, all of the games.
Yes.
Unless something really crazy happens. So I think with Baltimore, if you're looking for a true sleeper, yeah, I guess they make sense.
You say that as if like your hands are tied and
they
there's like a gun
are
pointed to
tied
your
because
head.
I don't know if you can actually call any of the NFC teams sleepers because they're all going to have 10 wins.
That's fair.
And Baltimore will technically too, but you look at the no one's going to pick the Chargers. I think the Jaguars have played themselves out of sleeper contention. So in reality, you're looking at the bottom half of the teams in the AFC, and are you going to pick the Chiefs right now? You're not going to pick the Titans or the Bills or the Chargers. So I guess Baltimore makes sense in that area. I do think it's telling, Cam, that they are still behind a team that hasn't actually clinched yet and might be left out altogether.
You're absolutely right. So the Ravens are there at 12. The Seattle Seahawks are there at 11. It's kind of a situation where if they get in, they can be dangerous, but they have to do the first thing first.
They haven't looked good either. So this is not the Seattle team we've seen in years past where maybe they start the year a little bit rough and then they get going in November and December. From what we've seen in December this year from Seattle, they've actually been pretty bad. The defense has been banged up. Russell Wilson has tried to do way too much, more because he kind of has to. So I actually don't like Seattle's position, and I would not like betting on this team, even though the odds are better than some of the higher-ranked teams.
All right, so we got the Hawks at 11, Falcons at number 10, 25-1 odds. And, of course, they have that tiebreaker over the Seattle Seahawks that is very handy right now in terms of the playoff picture. But talking about Atlanta's chances here, Tom, if you want to really pick a sleeper in the NFC, could be Atlanta.
I like it, and I think that the odds are low because they haven't clinched it. I do think that they get that locked up. I think they find a way to win this week against Carolina.
I agree.
And at that point, you're getting some better odds because it's 25-1. It'll go up if and when they make the playoffs officially. Of course, you're doing the risk of getting eliminated before the playoffs even start.
Correct.
With this bet. But I think Atlanta's a pretty decent underdog pick here, especially if they can finally get it all together. The offense has not clicked this year. I think that falls on Steve Sarkisian in particular.
All right, so the Falcons are there at 10. Let's check in with number 9 here. The Jacksonville Jaguars, 16-1 odds. They have clinched the AFC South. They are going to the postseason. They're hosting at least one playoff game. What do you make of the Jaguars here?
I am surprised they're so low. And they're behind a lower-ranked AFC team. They're behind a bunch
Correct.
of NFC teams. I'm a little surprised that their odds are only 16-1. Maybe it's a testament to Blake Bortles. But maybe because that they're at 9 here, maybe they do count as that sleeper team, Cam.
Perhaps they do.
And some good bang for your buck on your bet here.
There you go. All right, so I got some flack on the Cam Rogers show this morning because I was not really hyping up this team, the Kansas City Chiefs, 14-1 odds. I think they should be even lower than that, Tom.
I am surprised they are behind the Jaguars.
Yeah.
I don't mind 8 as the actual number for them, but I am surprised it's 14-1. I'm surprised that they have the same odds as the team that we'll get to here in just a minute. I would have them with lower odds. I don't like the value on this particular bet.
All right, so the Chiefs are there at 8. We're going to put the Carolina Panthers at number 7, 14-1 odds. I like this a lot.
I do too. I think Carolina has the quarterback and they've got the defense. I look through the NFC teams, and for the most part, with maybe a couple of exceptions, I like to bet on Super Bowl teams that have a great defense and a great quarterback, or the closest combination of those two.
Sure.
I think with Cam Newton and a solid but not great defense, I think is a big reason that Carolina should have maybe even higher odds than this. I think Carolina, if you're looking for another sleeper team in the NFC, I think Carolina's the team to go with. I like where the Panthers sit right now. Defense hasn't been incredible,
correct,
but it's been good enough with Cam Newton that I think they can make some noise in the NFC playoffs.
They got the front seven. The cornerback position is the big concern for Carolina. They got to blitz effectively in the playoffs if they want to go deep. This team has a couple of good corners. New Orleans Saints, 10-1 odds, checking in at number 6 in our Super Bowl odds rankings. Look, the Saints, Who Dat Nation, I'm like feeling this team.
Look, the defense has always been the issue for the Saints the past few years. It's been atrocious. It's taken an offense that should at least win 10 games, if not 11 and 12 every year, and taken them down to 7 wins, 6 wins, 9 wins in a good year. The defense, though, this year, thanks in large part to the presence of Marshawn Lattimore, who has easily been the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year, has been a fantastic upgrade for the Saints secondary. It's a huge reason why the Saints have gone from a bottom 5 defense into a top 10, top 15 defense. And I do like the Saints a lot. Injuries are a concern for me. They've lost some notable guys on that defense. I don't know if the depth is there, but Drew Brees in the playoffs, I like the sound of that.
Sure.
I like the sound of that in a very hotly contested NFC.
All right, so the Saints are there at 6. Number 5, the the Los Angeles Rams here. And greatest show on turf 2.0. Say what you want. They're number 1 in scoring offense this year.
I've been very impressed and surprised by the Rams, and I like Sean McVay coming out as the Redskins OC. I liked what we saw from him. For what he's done this year, been a fantastic job. I like McVay a lot. He could be a real... I think he should be the coach of the year, by the way. I think the Rams are a real threat with Wade Phillips as DC and that offense clicking on all cylinders.
All right, big point of conversation here. The Philadelphia Eagles at number 4, 8-1 odds. I'm not touching this.
Hey, certain members of the Chat Sports staff, I won't name any names, didn't like certain members, me and you, I think me and you, Cam, having the Eagles at 4 in our power rankings.
Yes.
Vegas feels the exact same way.
Yep.
And if they had Carson Wentz, they would without a doubt be the top team in the NFC. I think they would be top 2 in the odds. But going from Carson Wentz to Nick Foles, contrary to what some of you said in the comments section on NFL Daily, it is a drop-off from Carson Wentz to Nick Foles.
All right, so the Eagles there at number 4.
I love you all.
Minnesota Vikings at number 3, 5-1 odds here. And look, I am kind of salivating over the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs.
I think you notice the cluster of NFC teams all grouped together.
Yeah.
I don't think there's one clear-cut favorite. Maybe Minnesota because they have the defense. I don't know if I want to bet on Case Keenum, though. Now, Sam Bradford may or may not return.
He might have to come around at some point, Tom.
I think he's getting back to practice, so we'll see what happens with Minnesota. I do love their defense, though, and I think that's a big reason why they're 3rd.
Pittsburgh Steelers, they too have 5-1 odds. They're there at number 2. Look, it all comes down to Antonio Brown, right?
Yeah.
Can he come back healthy? And look, it seems like he will be back and active at some point in the playoffs, but will he be the same MVP candidate, Antonio Brown? That's the question.
If the Steelers have Antonio Brown, they have a chance to win the Super Bowl. If they don't, I don't know how they'll get past the Patriots if the Patriots are also healthy. I just don't see how.
All right, so they're there at 2. New England Patriots take the number 1 spot, 2-1 odds. You look at Tom Brady's struggles in December, Tom, and I feel like I'm not touching this mark either.
The odds aren't great. I think most people would say, who's your favorite? Who do you think will win if you're being unbiased? I think people will groan and say, probably the Patriots, which
right,
is
but I'm
where
thinking
I'm
as a better right
2
now.
to 1?
Yeah,
exactly. I mean,
exactly.
that's not good return on investment.
All right,
now, you're not going to get great return because there are only a handful of options here, but I don't think it's great return there.
All right, so New England's there at number 1. Let's summarize the Super Bowl odds rankings now, folks. 15 through 11. Titans, Bills, Chargers, Ravens, and Seahawks. None of those teams have clinched a playoff berth just yet. All right, 10 through 6, Falcons, Jaguars, Chiefs, Panthers, and then the Saints. And finally, the favorites, the Rams, the Eagles, the Vikings, the Steelers, the Patriots. Those are your Super Bowl odds rankings.